the Gachagua to talk about, other than to vent and make flying statements that fly on the face of Kenya, statements without evidence at all. And turning to the headlines, I would say the splash is your story as a media house, because the former deputy president was actually your guest. And of course, looking at the way you're making the splash, to be interfering with state departments and ministries, yes, his job cut out. And from the labor perspective where I come from, I would say these are workers who are under unfair, savage attack from a person who has been impeached on 9 grounds. And then he's venting bitterness on junior workers who are working around the president. If he has any issue, deal with the president. So blame everybody around, and to create a co-president out of somebody we see every day, we talk to, we can interact. You know, Kenya is so open. There is nothing mysterious about the presidents. You can reach the president, you can reach anybody who is there. We can even reach Rigiji wherever he is. So Kenya is an open society, and it is known these are people who are working around the president, and they're not the only one. There are many. And the authority of the Republic of Kenya is vested in the president, who took oath of office and was handed over the sword of the state. And so we don't need to vent our political anger on innocent individuals around, just like we don't need to vent on Gugoi and the others. If you are dealing with a bigger master elsewhere, deal with the master. And I think it is time we sanitize our politics, and for particularly as a labor leader and who has worked for a long time. When you choose to attack people who cannot defend themselves and people who don't have authority of any office or any infrastructure to defend themselves, it is wrong. These are people who are working loyally, and they're earning a living, and they're doing their work as assigned by their boss, whichever work that they're given. So to me, those are just but flying statements, and statements of a jilted, politically jilted person. Let me dare say, some of the statements that we see people make, if you are thrown out of government, either by impeachment or dismissal, then you turn out and make allegations that cannot be substantiated, and allegations that are so grave and serious. I would expect a serious Kenyan, if you are in office, make those statements while you are in office. Some of them sound so criminal that they should have, I think J.B. Muturi and Gachagua should have gone first to the DCI or EACC and record a conscience statement. That is when we know that they're serious. And append their signatures. You don't just choose a talk show like the way we are here and then make very serious statements. Surely, we are a country of the rule of law and constitutional order. And institutions were created to superintend the country. EACC to deal with matters corruption, DCI to deal with matters criminal. If they could not do it during their lives when they were in government, now they're out of government, we should have seen them recording those statements, so that then we take those statements seriously. Otherwise, we take it as ordinary political bitterness flying on the face of Kenyans. And then trying to deconstruct the president and the presidency and the work of the president. And to me, it is inconsequential. Kenya will move on. The president is focused in delivering the better agenda and will go around the country mobilizing the citizens and meeting people around the 5 pillars, from agriculture, MSME, ICT, housing, UHC, and others, including electricity infrastructure and roads, is the biggest public participation process. And if you look at the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza from the labor perspective, it is a social democracy agenda that will eventually bring social equality and ensure economic equity among the people. Very few presidents will be bold to choose such an agenda. And we know cartels of corruption who have thrived in the real estate, who have thrived in the medical industry, who have thrived in the communication space, who have been doing business with farmers, and we have seen in the sugar industry. How comes all of a sudden we have got surplus sugar? Unlike when you're importing sugar during Moi, Kibaki, and Uhuru, within 2 years, surplus sugar. So I think the president is bold, and this is one president who is so revolutionary. And the agenda, we can see, the indicators are clear, that he's pro the common man, and eventually there will be breach of social and economic equality within the country in the context of transformation of the country.
Well noted.
So the noisemakers, those who cannot fit in the system, will fall by the wayside. And these are not the first. Others will, because the big agenda of the country is big. It will work, and I don't think the president will be dissuaded to engage in political tough wars, but will focus on the transformation agenda that he promised the people. My brother here, that when we are in the show here talking, we are job seeking. That is far from the truth. That is being mischievous. We come here when we are invited by the media houses to engage in the debates here, and we are not sent by anybody. And for his information, he should be told that I've been in the media space for as long as anybody can remember. So I'm not new, I'm at home. And so we are here to discuss Kenya, and to discuss honestly and effectively. And if you want the truth will unfold. This is not a country of secrecy. This is not a country of mysteries. And as I have stated, the comments, the general remarks, without going into the specifics of JB and Rigiji, are definitely outrageous. And the question is, why didn't they speak about them then? If we talk of consistency, it was very clear that he started speaking, Rigiji started speaking when the impeachment process was building up. Impeachment that had come out twice and was thwarted, but eventually the members of parliament executed it. And it was executed before cameras, before the eyes of Kenyans at the National Assembly, where all the charges were read, and the victim was allowed to defend himself, and the members of parliament exercised their democratic right. There were 11 counts. Why are we trying to forget that there were 11 counts that were cited in the impeachment, and properly grounded, properly researched, with good public participation across the country? And eventually, we saw what happened at the Senate. Did he not run away at a time when he was supposed to be cross-examined? That's a fact. We saw, and pretended to be in hospital. These are facts. And I think it has reached a time. If you look at Kibaki's vision 2030, the three pillars, political, economic, and social pillar. The political pillar talks of Kenya graduating to transact politics based on issues, but not personalities. What we are witnessing here is a veiled attempt to try and deface the person of the president, and even stooping so low to attacking junior workers, trying to tell us who does what and what. All officers are vested with authorities. The said officers did not create the 11 offenses against the impeached deputy president. And impeachment is a provision in the Constitution. This is not the first successful impeachment. There will be more. And for me, in a nutshell, I dare say, if anybody has any credible incriminating criminal information against anyone, you don't need to call the media and make flying statements. Go record a statement and then call the media to communicate to Kenyans. That is when we'll believe you 30%. That otherwise the rest will just be political allegations and mere political allegations to try and tilt the political scale, which is not going to work. And I've told you, because all of us were in Kenya Kwanza, and we are not in Kenya Kwanza just for the sake of being in Kenya Kwanza. We were in Kenya Kwanza with an agenda. I had deep passion in what would happen in education, and we assisted the president in drafting the charter, which is signed. And most of the flagships have been implemented, including employment of 76,000 teachers. To me, as a labor leader, that is very significant achievement, including recalibration and review of the CBC, with the previous regime refused to look at. And we can talk about many other things. I will be a happy person and a happy Kenyan to see progress made in agriculture and to see enhanced production within the agricultural sector, value addition of agricultural goods and aggregation of the goods and Kenyans getting good market. In fact, with the strengthened shilling against the dollar, then we know tea farmers and coffee farmers will be earning more. Those are the things we should be talking about. The business, what Kenyans voted for on the ballot is what should be implemented. There is a time for everything. We are talking about housing. We've seen from the president's visit in Mount Kenya region, the actualization of the housing projects and even decent infrastructure markets. And that is happening across the country. And that is why the president needs many hands on deck to ensure that all these are delivered. Some of us who have served this country in the most serious positions would like to see the country transformed and the livelihood of the people of Kenya improved. And of course, we've been talking about this country operating at a poverty index of 48%. Would like to see it reduced and probably to one digit one day. That can only be done by some of us committing to talk seriously about what needs to be done. And that should not be construed that we are looking for jobs. If jobs come up, it is a right of everybody to apply, including you and all of you. It's a right. And if you get it, fine. But I think we have a duty to ensure that we do what brought us to positions of responsibility for now, to deliver to Kenyans. And as for politics, it will happen on one day in August 2027, the first Tuesday. And it will happen between 6 a.m. in the morning and up to politics of exclusion, including, if we talk about his two friends, they are speaking from nowhere except from one village in the country. Kenya is not made of one village in the country. While the president is traversing the country, preaching politics of inclusivity and mobilizing development in all regions of the country. And I think, practically speaking, and from my own political experience of many years and having worked with almost all the presidents of this country except Jomo Kenyatta, I think President William Ruto is a man on a mission, I'm convinced, and is not going to get distracted by those who have fallen by the wayside, and those who will also fall by the wayside. Others will fall if we don't team up and to support the cause and the agenda of the president for now. And anybody who wants to be president, any group who wants to form a coalition and prepare for 2027 are free to do so.
It's a democratic country.
It's a democratic country.
But while
the president was developing the Charter of Kenya Kwanza, there were forums across all the counties where deliberations were done and charters developed for those particular counties, and the president signed those charters. And there are unique development activities in all the counties, and that requires the president to personally supervise and mobilize people and leadership and all government infrastructure to fall in place and ensure that they are delivered. We have 5 years to deliver to the people of Kenya. And those who know that this will be delivered are working very hard to try and pull down all these successes. But it is not going to be possible. Kenyans will feel it. There's a lot of progress in agriculture, a lot of progress in ICT infrastructure, a lot of progress in housing. And I'm not elected. I think it is good he gets to know that I have been popularly elected across the republic by teachers across board, and probably in his own constituency are more popular than him. You should know that. That one is that is a fact that exists. It is a fact that exists. And then straight to your issue, when we come to education and what was agreed and negotiated by the Kenya Kwanza was, one, to review the CBC, both in terms of structure and content. That was done through Presidential Working Party. And that's so domiciling grade 7, 8, and 9 in the current primary schools. And that was meant to overcome barriers of cost that would have been transferred to households in terms of fee structures that could have come as these students moved into secondary schools to cause more congestion than the underage. And the general global policy through universal access to education of domiciling at least up to grade 9 closer to the households makes education accessible at zero cost to the households. As to the aspects of dealing with the quality in terms of infrastructure and supply of teachers is not an event, it is a process, and it is ongoing, and that is a fact, and it is known, and there are reports about it. And to me, I support that position very strongly because I raised issues about the manner in which CBC was being rolled out. That is one. Two, review CBC in terms of content. And in JS, students were supposed to do 14 subjects, but they were downgraded down to 9. That is a lot of rationalization. What else do you need to do? And that was reviewed within the context of UNESCO. It was not done political. Education is not a political item that you can do what you want to do in a reckless manner. It must be done professionally. And then number 3, other pieces of legislation that are going to support education in terms of implementation of programs, that is, include cessation of paper and amendment of pieces of legislation, I am sure will end up in Parliament soon, and he may need to endorse. And then lastly, number 4, when it comes to employment of teachers, the president committed, and Kenya Kwanza, to employ 116,000. That was a gap within 2 years. But due to constraint of resources, you know, and doing 76,000, which government has ever done that? I led strikes in 2011, myself, and we only achieved 18,000. But this one has been achieved without firing a bullet and without any agitation to employ 76,000. And that is work in progress that will get to 116. From labor perspective,
but has the process been above par? That
is great achievement. As to whether it has been above board or not, the buck stops squarely at the Teacher Service Commission, because Teacher Service Commission is under Chapter 15 of the Constitution, is an independent constitutional commission that is facilitated to execute its mandate. If there is anything wrong about the approach to recruitment of teachers, then the buck stops at TSC, and Parliament should hold TSC to account where there are issues of irregularities in employment, irregularities in promotion. Let me come to the funding model, university funding model, and I support it wholeheartedly. It speaks to the bottom up. When you look at Band 1 are students from the poorest household who would enjoy 95% of funding from both scholarships and higher education loans board. And when you look at enhancing of help funding from 13 billion to 30 billion, that is real money. And enhancing funding of universities to 84 billion. Regardless of contestations that are in court, it is normal for litigations in Kenya. But Mheshimiwa here should know that the Court of Appeal has overturned that lower court judgment, and therefore the new funding model is being implemented, and it provides equity, and it ensures that children from poor households in higher education are fully funded. The only thing we probably need to do is to do more intensive civic education about the funding model, improve the MTI testing instrument, and ensure that the funding model is conducted together with the career guidance in schools at the school level. We will have no problem. It is going to work, and it has been simulated, and it will work. But when you come to the healthcare system, because we must talk about it also. I have worked in that space. I was the vice chair NHIF at some point, and I served at that board. And I midwife the teachers' medical scheme, which was not working at NHIF, but we took it to TSC, and it is working. The universal health coverage has been something that very previous presidents attempted to roll out. Kibaki tried to roll out through Charity Ngilu as a minister, but there was no money to do it. He tried again after the Constitution of Kenya 2010, but it was not possible to roll it out because of lack of funds and logistical infrastructure. Uhuru Kenyatta tried different aspects, but William Ruto has taken it head on. The UHC means all citizens must be treated and be covered. And the fact of the matter is, since the rollout in October last year, if you check, over 16 billion shillings has been spent at level 5 and 6. Those are admission cases, and they're real cases, and they're known, and they're Kenyans. And at the primary health care facility, close to 2 billion shillings, close to 2 billion shillings has been spent at the primary health care facility. And the primary health care facility does not require any contribution. It's not subject to contribution. It is paid for by the state. That means healthcare facilities should have medicine and doctors and personnel. That is the ideal situation. And then what has never been covered by insurers, the business people in this country, the critical illnesses and emergency cases. The ICU has risen from 4,000 to 28,000 per day. That is very significant. And for the first time, all dialysis patients which were not covered by any insurance are receiving actually dialysis. Those are real cases. And for anybody to talk about the success of UHC, you must be sick. If you check, because when we introduce the scheme among teachers, those who are loud and criticizing are those who are not sick. But we realize those who are sick and were going for treatment were appreciating the services. And those who are talking and criticizing the healthcare and talking about receiving messages have not been sick, and they don't know what sick people experience. As we are talking in this show,
but they're receiving messages from sick people.
No. There are sick patients who are attending those facilities. And I dare say the UHC is not going to work in a day. It is not an event. It's a process. There are many things to be, these programs to be implemented. They don't belong to President William Ruto as a person. Kenyans. A sick patient is a Kenyan, anywhere in Kenya. And a young Kenyan entering employment, requiring a housing, is a young Kenyan.
Fair point.
And so a lot of things are falling in place, and all we need to do to be fair is to support the programs. Let us separate, isolate politics from the noble programs of the state. And that is why we still believe Kenya can be transformed. It will be transformed by Kenyans. It will be transformed by the leadership that is in office. The economy having failed or not, it is real data. 2022, the inflation was at 9%, but now it's at 3.2%. It is stable. Data by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Economic growth is well past 5%, 5.4%, and is ranked as, our economy is ranked as overall number 29, fastest growing in the world. The shilling against the dollar is stable, and that is going to benefit exporters of goods like tea farmers, coffee farmers, and others who are exporting. That is a fact for sure. Those are real data. The country has been taken out of the debt distress. And so the macroeconomic elements have been brought under control. And that is not easy. So therefore, the economy is falling in place. And if you look at it in terms of the key pillars. Is some work not working very well in agriculture? If now we are producing excess sugar to the extent that importation licenses have been revoked and we can easily export sugar as Kenya, then it's an indicator that we are a robustly productive country.
All right.
And the key agenda of Kenya Kwanza is to stimulate production, and production beginning in the agricultural sector that is going to supply raw materials to the processing and value addition. Those are good ideas. And the economic processing zones are taking shape in the counties that we really need to midwife our country to deliver. And I think there are indicators from KNBS, not political from Wamunyoro. KNBS is very clear. It is loud. It is not from State House. It is not from anybody. It is not from me. That is data. And I urge anybody who, and in fact, this data, even a blind man can see them without spectacles.
But I guess